Alright guys, in our video today, we're going to be looking at the beginning parts of probability, which is sample spaces and simple events. We're going to start off our lesson with a few vocabulary terms. The first one we're going to look at is a probability experiment. A probability experiment is an action or trial through which specific results are obtained. The second term is outcome, which is basically the result of a single trial in a probability experiment. Sample space is the set of all possible outcomes of a probability experiment. And we're going to look a little bit closer at some examples of that here in a little bit. And an event is basically just one or more outcomes from a sample space. So it's just simply a specific outcome from a sample space. All right, so let's look at an example of identifying the sample space of a probability experiment. So we have the survey. We're asking people for their blood types. The blood types we're going to look at are OA, B, and AB. Okay. And we're also going to look at if they're Rh positive or Rh negative. So those are two other qualities that they could have. We're going to determine the number of outcomes and identify the sample space. All right. Well, there's 4 blood types. O, A, B, and AB. Okay. Each person can either be Rh positive or negative, so we're going to use what's called a tree diagram to give a visual display of that. Okay. It gives us a starting point and it kind of branches out, and the last branches are going to show us the actual sample space. Okay. So here's our tree diagram for the situation. Notice the first row has O, A, B, and AB. The second one has our positive and negative for each of those types. So if we look at that, we have 8 possible outcomes along the bottom row there. If we list those in sort of a set form, they list out as O positive, O negative, A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, and AB negative. All right. So now that we kind of looked at an example of a sample space, let's look at some simple events. A simple event is basically an event that consists of a single outcome. So let's look at the sample space of if we're tossing a coin and rolling a die, a 6-sided die. You'll notice on the tree diagram to the right that first we have our heads and tails. Those are the options for tossing a coin. And then after each heads and tails, we have the options for the die, which are basically the numbers 1 through 6. So we have 12 possible total outcomes for this. Well, we're going to look at the event of tossing a head and rolling a 3. We call that event A. Well, there's only one possible way we can toss a head and roll a 3 out of the 12. So that is a simple event. Now, an event that is more than one outcome is not a simple event. So for example, if we look at tossing a heads and rolling an even number, okay, the even numbers here would be 2, 4, and 6. Well, tossing a head and a 2, a head and a 4, or a head and a 6, there's 3 possible outcomes there for that event. So that is not a simple event. Okay, so let's see if we can identify if these are simple events or not. Okay, so first we want to see how many outcomes there are in each event. And if there is only one outcome that gives us that event, then we're going to say it's a simple event. All right, so number 1, for quality control, you randomly select a machine part from a batch that has been manufactured that day. Event A is selecting a specific defective machine part. Well, since event A only has one outcome, choosing the specific defective machine part, okay, that would be a simple event. All right. Let's look at our second example. If we roll a 6-sided die and we make event B rolling at least a 4, well, at least, when we say at least a 4, that means we're rolling a 4 or higher, okay? Well, on a 6-sided die, if we have the numbers 1 through 6, a 4 or higher, there are actually 3 outcomes that give us that, rolling a 4, a 5, or a 6. Because there's more than one outcome to that event, that is not a simple event.